All right, I got Kelly Gormeley Soto on the show today. She is a life and transition coach and the founder of the I Deserve Project. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joel. It's so fun to be here. I appreciate you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to dive into you and your story. And I really want to talk about Messy in the Middle, this summit that you have birthed and is live and coming soon right now this week. But before we jump into any of that stuff, I think you have an amazing story. And I think people need to kind of hear, we always talk about this pain to purpose, but you have a really unique, I think, pain to purpose. And I'd love for you just to share a little bit about your background and how you are here now launching this massive summit that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. It's interesting because in stories, and everyone has this, right? We all have certain circumstances that lead us to where we are, where we're going. And when you actually take a step back and witness what is all happening, sometimes it's harder to do that in the midst of it. And that was the rationale for building the Messy in the Middle project, is to say, let's celebrate what's going on here because something's on the other side. So I was born in an urban environment to a single mom on welfare. My mom just was the most amazing woman that you could imagine. My father was pretty abusive, alcoholic. Now he's turned his life around since, but he was born into that. Like that was what he was born into. Vietnam vet, all of the life circumstances unfortunately led him to certain path. But fast forward, my father wound up leaving when we were around 5. I was one of 4 girls, and I also have a brother. And when I was about 18, my mom went into the hospital. She was on the obese side because she had been through quite the battle. And so she suffered from a lot, right? So she wound up having a blood clot in her heart the size of a lemon. They wound up removing it, open heart surgery, led to 13 days on life support. She didn't survive that battle. But in the midst of the messy middle, right? And I'm like, I say this with, like, I miss my mom. I wish she was here, right? She's did a lot, but she also left a legacy because on a piece of paper, she wrote a note that specified, I was in college at the time, for me to finish college. And that was something that I had on my heart. Like I had to finish, right? It was like, no matter what, kicking and screaming, no matter what, had to finish college. And this why the story is so complex. Like, who cares? Finish college. Well, the very next year, I wound up having a daughter. So at 19, so losing my mom at 18, having a daughter at 19, on my own. Again, another single mom, right? Because her father was just not around. On my own, and then having to go to school, work full time, starting my own career while in college was, I thought at the time, I was on autopilot just trying to figure it out. But then fast forward, my oldest turns 10, 3 years into, I meet my now ex-husband at the time. And I'm still like on this journey in financial services, finding success, just on the rhythm, feeling like life is good. But at the same time, meet my husband. My oldest daughter's now 10. So 3 years into our marriage, he winds up having cancer. And we struggled through that battle. Fast forward, he's now 10 years or just over 10 years in remission. So it's a great celebratory. There was a lot of hardship, right? The messy, what we had to do to overcome that, the chemo treatments, the massive amounts of spinach and the working and having to hustle. And it's very interesting also, and I'll pause there for a second for anyone who is going through a battle with cancer or the caregiver, because the caregiver winds up being like the one that's doing a lot of things, but nobody's really checking on that person. So I honor you, I celebrate you, and it's one of those things. So that struggle taught me a lot of things to help nurture people going through that, not only for the person experiencing it, but also the caregiver, because there's just a lot that goes into it. So I'm on a track in that moment, just doing well in corporate America. Like things just started happening. And then fast forward at the height of what I thought my career was, right? Whoa, HR, your position has been eliminated. Okay, so I founded the movement right after that because this is what life happens. Life happens for you, not to you. And I founded the I Deserve Project, started helping women in transition, started to share my story to empower others to share theirs. Fast forward a tiny bit, and in 2018, my now ex-husband leaves the family home in disarray. I'm now take a risk on myself because I hadn't gone back to work and developed a full-time income. You know what that looks like, Joel, right? Like I believe in
Yes, I do.
myself, but I'm bleeding at the same time because I'm trying to figure out all the things. So went back into work, figured things out, and then started to rebirth my career and journey in entrepreneurship, and hence the birth of the messy middle. And like, this is God's put something on my heart for a specific reason. And I know there's women that I look at the second worst time in my life was the divorce, and realizing there were pockets of time numbing and going through the tragedy and going through like this is another grief. Like the job loss was a grief. My mom was a grief. Thankfully my ex-husband's here and my children don't have to suffer from that. But when you look at the divorce, I'm like, this is terrible, and I don't wish it on my worst enemy. And then having the abandonment part of it, because now I'm like, well, my dad left, my mom left, not that it was her decision, but my ex-husband left, and like could have felt in the woe is me, stuck on the couch. And I was like, there's women out there that need to hear from these stories. Like, how do you overcome those challenges? How do you get through that messy middle? How do you overcome the divorce? How do you step into your power? How do you find purpose in that? And so I know that was a lot. I'll pause there. That was a lot. That's been my life. And I find and I witness there's so much grit when you just find grace for yourself and find that power.
Yeah. Now, okay. Your story, we hear a lot about this pain to purpose story for entrepreneurs and then people that had to go through this journey, and then they make it on the other side. But what makes your story so unique is that you mentioned you got like 3 pivotal moments of just tragedy, loss, scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've been in those moments too. And matter of fact, there's some people I'm coaching with right now, and I know you as well, where it's like you hear, yeah, these people are high achievers and they've made it through some difficult times. Like you just said, at the 18, there was that loss. And then, okay, you had a financial loss, big deal. And then you came over that. And then now you have a divorce. It's like, do you ever sit back sometimes though? And I hear this a lot. It's like, yeah, but God, like, why me? Like, again, like I've already suffered, right? I've already proven to you that I can withstand difficult times. And now again, you're going to make me go through this. Like, what more do I need to learn? So I'm curious for you, like, what is the self-talk that you had during some of those moments? Or what is the self-talk now? Because listen, I always look at like almost every decade, I probably go through a big loss or big something happens to me and I got to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy. But I know there's growth on the other side. Logically, I know that. I've seen it in my life. I can go back in time and look, hey, this is a good thing for me. Life happens for me, not to me. Like, it's a good speech. But man, when you're in it, like you said, really difficult. So what is the self-talk now that you've kind of utilized, or that you start to tell yourself, or even tell others that are going through it when they're saying, Kelly, come on, this is like the 3rd time this has happened to me. I can't do it again.
I know. Well, yeah. And it's very easy to just fall into that, right? And it is. You should feel the pain. I'm not suggesting to anyone, like, don't dismiss it. Feel the feels, go to therapy, do the thing. What I also find is, and how I explain to the people that I do work with is like, what is this lesson trying to teach me? The thing about it all, Joel, and you know this, is that it's not about us. Right? It's about what can I teach somebody else. So when you flip it on, and I don't know if you have this experience or exposure, like if you've done any charity work, when you go in there, you think you're going in there to help them, right? And you walk out like filled and like, wow, and then you're inspired and then you're more grateful. And so for me is explaining those moments and going through it, what I found in like, because that same thing, every 5 to 7 years, there's been something. And I miss markers. There's definitely things in between, clearly. And at a certain point too, I remember sitting at my desk of somebody coming up to me in the midst of the cancer transition. And it's like, well, God doesn't give you anything you can't handle. And I'm like, but when you make it about someone else, just like you're at the soup kitchen or at the serving seniors or whatever the case is, when you, same thing, when you go into those moments, or if it is something that's on your heart, when you walk out of there, you walk out of there feeling like, wow, I'm going through the fire so I can help somebody else who may not be as strong as I am, who may not have the endurance, who may not have had all those occurrences. I was so grateful having gone through so many fires in the past, because when the divorce came, even though I said it was the second most worst time of my life, it was challenging, but I already built the rhythm and the muscle to go through the storms. So it was like, it was that. So when I speak to people, it's like giving them hope that there's something better on the other side. And I almost feel, I shouldn't even say this, but I am. I feel bad for people who haven't experienced adversity.
Me too.
I feel worse for them than I do for myself. And at the end, there's one thing that we know when we come on this earth, like, we're promised that there's going to be problems and issues and occurrences. Like, it's guaranteed. It's just, what's your favorite flavor of suffering? I think Tony Robbins would say, right? What's your favorite flavor of suffering? And it's like, I'm not purposely wanting to suffer. One thing that I've learned, even in like transformation training, there's a lot of intentionality too. Sometimes, I'm not that I can control that there's going to be some downside in the forward looking, but sometimes we're creating those issues, right? I'm a single mom. I'm never going to, well, you keep saying that you're never going to find, your soulmate, or you're never going to buy the house of your dreams. Well, what if you could? And I'm not a big believer in manifestation. I believe in, biblical principles, right? So it is like he wants us. The Lord wants us to be better and have more. So those are the things that I lean into at those really hard times. And again, having gone through those experiences, so when I relay those stories, there's a piece of that too, though. What I discovered is you can get a little bit tarnished when you've gone through so much, and then you see someone else complaining about it, about their circumstances. So you also have to have some sort of grace with them, because they're in the midst of it, and honor their experiences and honor their growth, because you don't want to get numb to those experiences, like, put your big girl pants on or anything like that, because they're going through the motions. So I know that was a long-winded answer. I don't talk linear, so in case you haven't noticed.
No, I love what you said though about it sounded like, when you focus on yourself, me, oh, woe is me, I'm the problem. I always tell clients, you know what you need to do? You need to get into service. You need to get into action. You need to get creative, because anytime you're stuck, it means you're not doing anything. Go out and be of service. Do something for someone else, because it stops putting the attention on you and it puts it outward, which I think is great. But then there's the flip side of it where, I also think, man, we got to double down on self-care. We got to take care of ourselves. What about us during these hard times? So to your point, though, I love it. And you're proof of this. You actually went out and started sharing your story and building a community with other women. Like, hey, this is what I'm going through. This is what's working for me. Like, what's working for you? And like really building community and sharing your vulnerability, which I think is crucial. So, but on that, so there's that duality, right? Of being in service. And then there's like taking care of yourself. But if someone comes to you and they're like, Kelly, I got all these things going on, are you saying, well, here's the answer. I got it. Go help out at the soup kitchen. Now, are they going to say, oh, come on, like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm facing a big problem. You want me to go help other people? Like, what do you say to that? Or how do you help them navigate and kind of, go travel through this messy middle?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because at that point you have to compartmentalize, right? It's almost like being in this storm, and then the tornado happens, and then you have to sort those things out, right? So I always lean into self, and many of the women that I'm working with are they're Christian based, to have that, right? So that's the audience. And I'm not saying I don't work with anyone who's not, but there's the biblical principles underneath, right? So where we break it down in like having the faith, right? Not being in worry, and what the differences are. So we break down the differences as being in fear versus not. Like, you don't want to be necessarily in fear. You want to break those systems down. And it's like you said, leaning into moving your body and working on yourself. And what is it leaning into the time that you felt the most, like the best. what did that look like? How did that feel? What were you doing? What were you wearing? Right. And so revisiting that time and that experience, because, and this happens for many women, right? It happened for me. Going through the divorce, you put on the weight, you're, you know, at a certain age level, there's also the hormones that are now imbalanced. So, you know, you're dealing with all those extra level of things that you wouldn't have maybe experienced in you know, I guess on fast forward, if you will. But the breakdown would be is to be of service, right? Find those things that you can do, but also be in service of yourself first and foremost. I mean, another piece too is your first ministry is home. So whether you have children or don't have children, there's another piece, because children will tell you what it is that, like, they put a mirror up to you if you're not paying attention, if you're checked out. And that could be, and I'm just using a divorce as an example, or even grief. Like, you could be in this like shell, but for many people, you can't really be in that shell too long. Otherwise, you're destructing other people, your little ones, or maybe adult children or parents or whoever it is that you're caring for, and having to like really lean into helping out in those certain circumstances. I know I'm like going in different tangents, but the systems would be faith, knowing that this is not the end of the road, that you can go overcome this, and then really caring for yourself and taking that time. And then spending time with also people that are going through those other pains, right? The soup kitchens or whatever it is that you would choose, because it does fill you up. For me, I ran the marathon. I did that. Like, I was like, how can I make myself feel better? Right? Finding that thing that brings me joy. And when I look back, it was being in service to others, is helping them overcome that what they're experiencing. And I know that doesn't break it down by much. It seems like a big task, but those are the things that do fill you up, right? You when you think about self-care too, is like, what brings you the joy? Is it reading books? Is it going to the beach? I lived at the beach because it brought me so much joy.
Mm. There's this piece that we're talking about where, you know, how do we respond to crisis? And I think that's what we've really been focusing on. But I know, again, sometimes it's not always crisis. Sometimes it's just this, you know, feeling stuck. And I know you work with people, women specifically, in this realm where it's like, Kelly, I've been working at this job for 10, 20 years. It's time for a change. I'm just lackluster. And then when that happens, when the work is not working, guess what? They typically come back into home and their marriage is just blah, because everything's just vanilla, right? You know, you like you mentioned, we're on autopilot for 20 years. I made that mistake with my kids and my family, just getting into these routine and habits of like, this is normal. Mm-hmm. This chaos is normal. And it's actually not, but you don't even aware of it because you're in it. And until you step out of it, the paradigm, are you like, whoa, there's actually more to life. So when you're working with people, let's say not in crisis, but just in that sense of like, blah, is this it? Is this what, you know, we typically call this the midlife crisis, 30, 40 years old, they're looking to transition and do something. They know there's more in life than, is this it? How do you help them? Is there like a 3 to 5 step, you know, process or framework, or you try to kind of help them navigate? Again, I keep saying the messy middle, but in transitioning, you know, it's very scary, you know this, to leave a corporate job. It's safe. And now you see a lot of women wanting to now be entrepreneurs like yourself and do more, but man, they don't know where to even start. How do you help them, again, navigate these transitions?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. 3 things. It would be, because let's just talk about the 3-step process. It's, again, going within. Where is that time that you felt the most joy? Because we all, and you know this, right? Inherently we know, right? Coaching is not, it's not prescriptive. I can't tell you what you want out of life. It's like going within. Where's that time, or what's that vision? And let's break that vision down. And what does it look like? How does it smell? What rooms are you in? So there's that. Like, either take yourself back or even forward on like what you're seeing for yourself, and making that, helping them discover that all things are possible. Another thing is like the piece in going back to the self-care, miracle walks. You know, having them just go and and take time to themselves to decompress. Because when you're in the midst of that messy middle, it could be, again, cooking dinner, getting kids, dropping them off, soccer and softball and track and whatever it is that you're experiencing. Yes, you should be on that, but you have to take time for yourself, where it's like, all right, I have to disconnect from all of the chaos. And even if that means going in a separate place where it's not in the home, and go on those experiences. And then the third thing, what I would say is, be amongst other people that are doing it. Oh gosh, the belief you receive from other people, and borrow that belief, borrow it. We all say, and in addition to that, not only in amongst your peers, but success leaves clues. So following somebody that else has done that first. And I'm saying all big things, so the steps do get broken down even further. But yeah, it's like success leaves clues. And even if it's amongst the peers that are still doing it, they are going to charge you up. Go to the masterminds, go to the seminar, go to, any kind of training. I lived at Tony Robbins seminars. I did. So much that I started to, same thing, be of service. Became crew. So, I got on stage, I was danced with the team at a certain point. I'm like, I don't know how this is happening, but it's all happening. And you wind up just stepping into your power. And I'm not saying that's for you, but whatever it is that you feel like you have in terms of possibilities or capability, everything is possible. If it's on your heart, it's for you. If it's in your vision, if you've dreamed of it, it's reachable. But that doesn't mean it happens overnight, right? The steps in the process have to take place. You have to break it down. You have to, like I said, be in the rooms of other people, because let's just call it a mastermind. You're in a room of individuals that all are that want the same, like maybe not necessarily the same thing, but they want something more. And when you start to work in that energy and start to connect, because if you could be on an island. What I found in this is just more entrepreneurship. What I found is, yeah, I have this dream and this passion, but everybody around me doesn't quite understand it. I've taken the risk on myself. They don't quite get why I'm not working full time, why I'm not, right? They don't get it. But when you get yourself in the room, you can re-pump that vision. You can reignite that flame, because you're now around shared experiences, shared mindset, shared stories that it could help even invigorate that further. And then, and thankfully for you, I know you have your wife you're in partnership, and that's another piece, is just making sure that you're pouring into the family so they can quite understand what that vision is. Again, whether you want to write a book or start a podcast or even like just the opposite, stay at home with the family. That's like, you have to go in and find partnerships and find other communities of people that have gone first and who have done it well, so that you can, number one, borrow their belief, be in the energy, but also follow their rhythm, follow the path. It's okay to emulate somebody. Maybe, I don't suggest being somebody else. Like, you should be authentic. You'll find your voice in the process of it. You want to find your voice in the process of it. I found very recently, actually, that my head, it was like connecting, but at a certain point, it was like getting stuffed right here. So my heart, it just wasn't picking up from the heart. And now all of a sudden, going through a process and a training and investing in myself, like going through, like it doesn't seem normal to many people, but investing in yourself, the programs, the mindset coaches, the thing, like there's so much value in it. What I found was that I was stuffing everything. So all the traumas must have been stuck right here. So from the outside looking in, people were viewing me as like inauthentic. And I'm like, how could they ever? I'm like the most authentic person you'll ever meet. But my words were getting stuck, and it's visible. So do the work on yourself, be in the rooms, right? Those are the things that I would highly recommend. And again, super high level, and there's plenty of people that have gone before that can teach into that, but do that work. And again, that doesn't even, I'm speaking to entrepreneurs, but this could also mean, like, again, just the opposite. A career change, or stay at home with the kids, or whatever it is that is on your heart, whatever, it's all possible.
Yeah, so good. I love what you said, borrow others' beliefs. I always say, I never say it that way, but I always tell guys, and they reach out to me, they want to fix their marriage, they want to fix their family, and I tell them, listen, the beliefs that got you here are not going to be the ones that get you there where you want to go. But don't worry, I'm going to give you the beliefs that you actually need to have because I know what they are. You don't right now, and that's why you're stuck. And a lot of them want to just stay. They don't. They when I say that, they maybe logically can grasp it, but they don't understand it because they're not even living it. And a lot of times they're still like, no, they say no to me. They don't want to invest in themselves. They don't want to invest in coaching. And I'm like, dude, how are you going to get out of this? Like, I know what it's going to take. You don't, unfortunately. The same beliefs that are telling you, no, I don't want to sign up for your coaching is the same beliefs that got you here, dude. Sorry. And I know, and believe me, I've been on both sides. I've been on the side where, my story well, where my wife challenged me and I was like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to hire a coach. Like I've done 4 years of therapy. I've done neurofeedback. You're crazy. But I did. And I always say one more time. I did it one more time. And I think a lot of people, that's the hard part, Kelly, to your point is a lot of us, when we are in crisis or we've suffered so much, we felt like we've suffered so much. We don't want to invest one more time because the idea that their hope is on the other side seems too distant or doesn't even seem like reality. But to your point in the beginning, having that faith, and where there is no faith, there is no cure. So I love that. Also really interesting. I was reading something the other day about your point about self-care and, whether it's meditation or taking those pauses, kind of as you mentioned. And when we think about it, I was reading this and I'm like, that's so true. When we're on a mission and we're go-getting, we just, I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time for myself. I just need to go, 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 go. But all of our greatest ideas to getting unstuck happen in like when you're in the shower, when you're just like, la, 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 right? And those are the times when we're taking that pause, we're being present. And so I love that you said that. I mean, it just really resonated with me. So thank you.
There's this one thing, Joel, that I heard Lisa Nichols. It stuck with me for a very long time. She's, how people say, like, don't pour from an empty cup, right? Don't do this. She's like, I overflow the cup where it's on the saucer, and I'm drinking from the saucer. That cup is always going to stay full. And so this reminds me of that. Like even in a session like this, right? Us doing this is like, this is healing, right? So get out there and do the thing that, and it reminds you of all of the successes and the fact that we're on this mission and none of it's really about ourselves. You mentioned that experience with coaching people, right? You don't realize what's possible unless you actually work with somebody that can point, right? Hold you accountable, hold your feet to the fire, do those, like take that, whatever you're in, that messy action and turn it into a miracle. Take it in and turn it into some substance. There's this one TED Talk that I heard recently. I can't recall who the speaker was, so I apologize for that. But it was about a surgeon who was like, well, let's call it, I think he was a neurosurgeon. I might be making that up. But either way, he was talking about, well, I don't need coaching. I'm a surgeon. I got this. What do I need coaching for? And so at the end of this, and I'm going through the story super fast. And what he learned in this coaching after he had been observed, right, is like, at the end of this, if you just lifted your elbow up just a slight, like a millimeter, just 1 millimeter shift or 2, right? What do they say? Just a shift slightly, you would get this with so much precision. And again, I'm doing it a little bit of disservice, but the idea there is like someone you think, all right, this surgeon, he's got it. What does he need a coach for? Well, the coach was able to hold a mirror up to him and said, if you just did this, you'd be able to really, really do so much better or decrease the time or whatever the case is. And that's the same thing with every piece of work that you and I both do with people. It's like you're in the storm. You might not see yourself out of it, but lean into somebody who's gone before you. Lean into somebody who can teach you or can showcase like there's a better way to do something. Let me show you how. And you have to, as a coach, have so much care for the world, like you stand for transformation in this world. So it's at the end of the day, like, this is your business, but this is what you stand for. You stand for families. You stand for, and I can't say this enough about your work, is that you're breaking generational curses of families that that stay together, right? I mean, I'm a divorce, a byproduct of a divorce. and then my kids are too. But the uncovering and the unwounding and the unwinding that had to be done because of all of the couple of generations before me, I would never have had to go through this. So I never want to leave. I want to leave this world a better place. And I'm sure that's what that's on your heart too. You want to leave this world a better place. So, gosh, I can't say this enough about connecting with and working with somebody who's going to care more about you than you do yourself, to just point you in the right direction, hold you accountable, hold your feet to the fire, and at the times that are the toughest, right? I think it's just so important, and that's what I'm looking to accomplish with the Messy Middle Project. Is yes, you're in a storm. It does not feel good. But let's take a moment to watch the miracles unwind, watch them unfold, watch you grow through it. You're growing through this life, right? You get stronger and stronger each downturn, and there's so much strength and so much love and connection and redirection, right? Like, like, who do you meet along the way? How do you connect? What person do you become? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So talk to me. You just mentioned the Messy Middle. So that's a project that you're working on right now and is going to be live in a couple of weeks. Talk to us about that and what people can expect and why they should tune in.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm all about supporting other people, other businesses. And so this summit came together as a way to educate people that they can have the life that they truly deserve. The I Deserve Project leans into faith, family, fun, fitness, and finances. So I brought together experts in all different industries. There are life coaches, business coaches, podcast coaches, TED Talk speakers, fitness trainers, family and coaches for men. Like, it's all over, just sharing their experience and their expertise on overcoming that messy middle. There's even there's a mother who's actually became an author who suffered something no one ever wants to experience in losing a child, and what came about that. And not saying that we want to celebrate that. We want to just say, what can I do with my experiences? And so I brought together coaches that have discovered they too have overcome these uncomfortable experiences that really brought them to a higher ground. It's like, okay, what's next? What's next? And so what you're expected to hear from is 15 amazing coaches and therapists and all different leaders in their own right that are just going to bring tools and experiences and point you in the direction. There's something in it for everyone that will just showcase how you too can create the life that you truly deserve, even amongst the messy middle, even amongst the life's challenges, even amongst anything that just gets thrown your way.
I love that. And I always say, talk about community, right? And learning from we were talking about this before you jumped on, is that we are a byproduct of stories, before the written word. How was information passed? It was passed through mythology and stories. And that's how people learned. And we used to, in the village, we used to gather around a bonfire and share these experiences, share these stories. So guess what? We could learn from our mistakes and not make them again. And that's really what you're doing. You've compiled 15 experts, myself is on the summit as well. So it's a buffet of people. Hey, if you're looking for transition, go look at Kelly. If you're looking for maybe leveling up your marriage, and what are the stories that Joel faced in his messy middle? How did he overcome it? If you want to be a podcast host, or you want to be a fitness coach, or there's wherever you're at, wherever you're stuck right now, there is probably going to be a coach that has been where you're at and overcame it. And again, the beliefs that got you here won't get you there. So what are their beliefs? How can I borrow their beliefs and learn how to transition and overcome and become the highest version of myself? So I love what you're doing.
Yeah.
If anybody is, I think we can all benefit, whether you're in a transition or not. But so talk about the details of the summit, how they can sign up, what are the dates, what are the times, that kind of stuff, the little details.
Yeah, that's a good question. So we are right now in the midst of, we're in that pre-launch. It's messymiddleproject.com is how you can get to it. You would just register. We go live. We go to market on June 16th, but there will be replays and VIP bonuses. If anyone wants, they'll have access to all the resources from each one of our amazing experts, including Joel, that you just have access to download, spend some time with them as well. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. That's how they reach it. And you brought up a good point. Well, that was something on my heart, is like, I felt like I was spooling for a long time in the work that I was doing. It's like, what if I had somebody guide me on how to get to the finish line faster? What if, right? One example is there's a divorce coach that does mediation, and her idea is to have an intentional divorce. And I'm like, what if I had her, right? So there's all these examples of really great experts that have seen this and worked through it. And that's how you get there. So it's messymiddleproject.com. We're in the season where everybody's starting to register. You're going to experience all those videos come to life. You can register pretty much at any time, and hopefully you enjoy the episodes. They'll come out on email. They're all pre-recorded. You'll have lifetime access if you upgrade to VIP. And there's more to come. I have on my heart to continue this project and see where it takes us.
Yeah, amazing. Kelly, just last but not least, just tell everybody, if they just want to follow you and see all the exciting things that you're up to besides the Messy Middle Project, then stay in tune. Where are you most active? Is it Instagram, LinkedIn, or your website? Like, where can people go to just follow you and continue to follow your journey?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I toggle between Facebook and LinkedIn. So Kelly A. Gormley Soto, Gormley Soto on Facebook, and then on Instagram, I'm the Kelly Soto, and that's it. The Kelly Soto on Instagram.
Amazing. Kelly Gormeley Soto, thank you for being on the show. I appreciate you so much.
Oh, I appreciate it. This was so much fun. Thank you. You're doing great work in the world. Keep doing it, Joel.
Thanks.